So today I have a special guest, Ahsan Raza, who's an entrepreneur and realtor. So we'll be talking about different things. Ahsan, how's it going? I think you had a wild
It's,
ride to your office today this morning.
it's going good, man. It's going good. It's minus 25 weather.
Oh,
So
that's it?
ran. That's it, man. Ran a little bit late, but
Yeah.
had a couple of heater malfunctions that happened at home, so I had to get that taken care of. But
Oh, shoot.
I think family's okay for now.
All right.
I'll check in on them soon.
Did you put the stove on and
Every
leave them there?
the
Run to the
the
office
portable
with the
heaters, everything, man, everything. No, I actually had I had a listing. We had a few showings scheduled for today,
Uh-huh.
and the client calls me and he's like, my heater's not working. So what are we gonna do? Should we tell the buyers? What if they think the house is broken?
Yeah.
Let's relax. Let's just get the HVAC technician in there. So we spoke to them and then just trying to put those fires out. But
Okay.
that's how it is, man. January listings are always a bit of a tough one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in this type of weather, the cars, the houses,
Yeah,
everything is on risk, right? You just
it's
never know.
so unpredictable,
It's
man.
crazy.
Yeah,
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 yesterday I went
yeah.
out to do some groceries, and by the time I came back, I almost had frostbite. So I
It's stay indoors if you're
yeah.
listening. Well, hopefully by the time this recording is done, the weather will be nicer.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. I like the snow
yeah,
though. I like the snow. It looks nice.
yeah. Snow is good. Yeah, it's just the temperature, man. February is like the worst, right?
Yeah,
Coldest month of the year. So,
yeah. So
but we'll get through
for all the viewers, no listings in Feb. No, I'm kidding.
it. There's your real estate tip.
Yeah.
Don't list in January or February.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's everything going? How's business? How's real estate?
It's good. Yeah, no, it's been it's been a great start to the year. For me, especially just trying to there's a lot of media headlines with the economy and real estate in general, which I'm sure we'll get into later on. But for me, I try to stay optimistic, positive, and I think that's one thing that's kind of kept me going in my career.
Mm-hmm.
Is no matter the weather, no matter the situation, I think we just have to keep positive when you're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that mindset, good things tend to attract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, can't be overconfident, can't be arrogant, but you have to be optimistic in things in life in general. So
Yeah,
that's my mindset. And overall, like it's been good, man. Like it's been a good year. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year
yeah.
and lots of opportunities in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, do you, in terms of like entrepreneurship, are you also interested in different aspects of, besides real estate or certain parts of real estate?
Yeah, like for me, like I kind of fell into real estate, right? A few years ago. This is about 10, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And was never ever my plan, but I always knew like deep down when I was in school that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I wanted to have my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was kind of planted in my head like when I was young from my father who was also an entrepreneur. And so whether it was real estate or whatever, I wanted to be my own boss.
Mm-hmm.
And real estate gave me the avenue to kind of get into that field where I didn't have to work for somebody. I could work for myself, which is kind of a catch-22 because if you work for yourself, you also have the luxury of sleeping in or not working hard. And so early on, those are things that I had to fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if I'm going to be my own boss, if I need to make money for my family, I have to be disciplined
Right.
and I have to treat it like a 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
Not like a 10 to 4 or like a
Yeah.
12 to 8.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
those are the differences, but that's what I like
yeah.
about it,
Or 7 to 8.
Or exactly.
They're those
Yeah,
type of days as
exactly.
well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, just having my own business, just in terms of what aspects I like about real estate, I really, really, really like or enjoy the aspect of meeting people
Mm-hmm.
and networking
Mm-hmm.
because, for me, just making conversations, learning about other people's professions, like how you and I got connected early on and how I see you're growing in so many ways doing this podcast. Like you learn so much about people and it goes beyond real estate, it goes beyond friendship, it goes beyond relationships. Like you create so much synergy between the people you're speaking to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a flood of opportunities that you can't even name that come from so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the meeting people in general is like I just enjoy that because I learned so much about them and they learned so much about me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've known each other for over a decade and we've always had conversations, but ever since I
Yeah.
kind of got more into the entrepreneurship side, we've been talking more and that's definitely something I enjoy as well, just being able to share ideas and discuss with different
Right.
entrepreneurs and it just gives you that avenue and the push as well to do it, right? So, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Um, do you have any besides real estate, do you have any other entrepreneurship projects that you're looking into or thinking about or
I'm
partnering
always
on something?
dabbling in different things.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
always dabbling, whether they fail or succeed. So
Oh yeah.
it's, I have that experimental mindset.
Nice.
But I think for me, it's important to try different things.
Mm,
So one thing that my partner and I did actually venture into a couple years ago,
mm,
was an after school program for kids.
okay.
And basically, it's like a franchising opportunity where we're the master franchisors. And what we do is we look for like-minded partners, and we help them open up their own after-school program in the GTA. And so that's been growing well. We've
Mm,
got 4 locations now in the GTA.
mm-hmm.
And aside from real estate, one of my other passions is children's education and financial literacy. So those two things I think will help kids give them an upper hand or a leg up when they go to university and things because the public school sector right now unfortunately doesn't teach you what you need to know. And so we were like, what can we do to kind of help kids out in that avenue? And so that's what we're working on right now. It's called Idea Lab Kids,
Mm.
and we're growing. So we're looking for more opportunities on that side. But that real estate are my two basically main projects right now.
Those are your two babies along with your real
Yeah,
babies.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
two babies, alongside my two other kids that I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that sounds pretty cool because there's definitely a big gap in the financial literacy aspect of, people could go through high school, universities, even maybe do PhD, but then, when it comes down to practicality of it, they might not know how to read a credit report
yeah,
because that's something we
that's
have to learn on our own.
surprising.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
odd how that system is set up in that way, right? So that's pretty cool that you're
yeah,
gonna.
yeah. And I find that like I don't know, like when you were in school, when I was in school, like we're on the same age, like we never got taught
Yeah,
any of that stuff,
no.
man. Like even in university, right? Like we took finance courses, we took accounting courses, but not once did my professor ever mention that, the importance of having a good credit score.
Yeah.
And I learned that like later on in life, and it's like, whoa, okay, this is mind blowing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. It's like all this
right?
abstract theory and details and
Yeah,
studying for days and days
yeah,
on end and something that would take maybe a couple hours to
right,
understand and it's such a big part of your life, like, because that's really dependent on kind of like goes into getting mortgages or your
right.
credit cards, leasing an automobile. Like these are all really important things in life. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's cool that you're
and
actually making a difference in that part. Sorry, go
and
ahead.
that's what I was talking about. Like when we talked about like what you enjoy about the business. Like when you meet people, that's one thing that I learned meeting mortgage brokers, meeting accountants, right? So you learn so much about the business part of it, which I didn't know that I can enhance and apply to my business as well.
Hmm. No, that's great. Um, Getting into it a little bit, I guess, on the real estate side, what would you say, like you deal with so many different clients and you have been for a while, you were well seasoned and experienced. What would you say are some of the more common issues to watch out for, common mistakes that are made by, uh, you know, uh, individuals or families purchasing properties?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. I think one of the biggest things that I think people need to understand is what they can afford, right? And not to stretch themselves too thin, because especially right now in this environment with interest rates going crazy, like it's really important to kind of double down and just kind of see, okay, even if you're getting approved for let's say $1 million, can you afford that on a monthly basis, right? And if you can't, then you don't have to spend $1 million. So I think the biggest mistake people make is not understanding what they can afford
Mm,
and not getting approved for the right amount of mortgage. So one of the first
mm-hmm,
steps that we take as real estate agents is that, okay, if you are a client who wants to buy a home, let's get you approved first by a lender. Let's see okay, you approved for $1 million, that's fine, but let's work on your monthly payments and your property tax, your mortgages, your insurance, right, repairs, maintenance. Does this amount fit into your monthly expenses? And if it doesn't, okay, what can we do to kind of decrease that, right?
Mm,
And so that's important. I think that's something that a lot of people miss out on. And then unfortunately, what happens is when they do stretch themselves too thin, they get into mortgages that they can't afford and they're forced to sell, right?
mm,
Or forced to, foreclose on, unfortunately. And so that's kind of what happens.
mm.
Okay.
So speaking of the cash flow, it's pretty interesting because I think about this a lot where the the business because businesses corporations are also like an individual entity, right? So you talked about cash flow. Essentially what you were talking about was you do a cash flow analysis for individuals when they're purchasing a house. So you look at their revenue, you look at their expenses and how much cash they'll need for, let's say, personal expenses. They might have leases, their monthly payments that they need to pay for food and things like that. And then what they have left over, is it enough to cover the mortgage, interest, what utilities and insurance and things like that. So it's pretty cool how, I was just thinking as you were speaking, is that, it's kind of like a cash flow analysis that we might do for businesses, small businesses. It kind of translate into
Yeah.
individual level. And it's so true. Just
Right.
like how a business would crash if it doesn't have enough cash coming in to pay its expenses on a monthly basis. You're essentially kind of doing the same
Right.
thing at the individual level where, let's say, you don't have the cash flow to be able to make those mortgage payments, then eventually you might have to, worst case scenario, you might have to sell the house. It's like kind of, closing down
Right.
business. So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool that, like these things kind of go hand in
Yeah.
hand in these different industries. Uh,
And that's where the financial literacy part plays in, right?
mm,
Like for me, that was something that I learned a long time ago, but now I get to apply that in my business. I'm not to say that I'm like a financial literacy guru or anything, but like at least whatever I know, like practical steps that I did or mistakes I made, like I wouldn't want my clients to make those mistakes as well.
mhm,
So able to advise them that, okay, look, this might not be your home because it's too expensive.
mm,
Let's kind of look for something more modest or more reasonable.
yeah.
And sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't, but at least I give them my advice, my recommendation.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like they're making an educated decision instead of,
Exactly.
they're
Exactly.
going in
Yeah.
more educated into that transaction
Right.
basically. So yeah, I mean we talk about the current market. One thing we can talk about, which I thought might be cool to think about is, let's say, we always talk about the current market, but how about what do you think about the current market, and what do you think about the market will be in 2030? I'm talking about real estate market here, because there's a lot going on
Oh,
nowadays.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so yeah, I'd love to get your
2030.
thoughts on
Wow.
that. Yeah, I mean a few years down the line, but
So that,
but
yeah, yeah.
we'll be a little bit older, just a
You, you,
just a little bit, but
you're the first guy to ask me that question, man.
okay, that's good.
I've had people ask me like, what do you think the market's going to be in 2024, 2025, 2030? No,
Look,
that's,
I've bought
that's a
into
new one, man. But that's,
yeah, I've bought into the long term investment type of of
you're
mantra.
all about the long game, which is good, man.
Yeah.
Which is good. No, that's a deep question. That's a deep question. That's a very good question. Like right now, the market obviously is slow, right? Because of the interest rates. If you're not familiar, the Bank of Canada raised rates like 8 times
Mm,
last year in the span of 12 months, which was unheard of. And the reason they did that was to curb inflation. Now, whether or not that's working or not, only time will tell. But we are seeing the market sort of take, a big setback because of the rates.
mm,
So just for perspective, right now sales are down 50%,
wow.
which is pretty dramatic, pretty bad, right? But what I'm noticing is that even though sales have been down, there's still activity out there in the market. So things are still selling, things are still moving,
Hmm.
but we have seen about a 20-25% correction in prices overall from last year.
Mm,
Now, what's going to happen in 2030? So this is just my opinion.
yeah.
It's not a prediction. This is my opinion. So
Yeah.
don't quote me on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll check back in 2030 if I
Yeah,
was right or
exactly.
not.
We'll
But this
replay
is
this.
this is
We'll watch it
cool.
together in a theater.
So I feel that the market um, cycles every 5 to 7 years,
Hmm.
right? Based on the time I've spent in the market, and I feel that every 5 to 7 years something happens where the market goes up, goes crazy, and then government intervention comes in to curb that enthusiasm, right? To avoid home prices from skyrocketing. So, for example, like in 2017,
Yeah.
home prices were just skyrocketing, right?
Yeah.
And that's when the government came in and enforced these housing policies, which didn't really work in terms of reducing the house price for the long term,
Mm.
but it shocked the system, and people just stopped buying,
Mm.
and that dropped the price by 20%.
Right.
Then what happened in 2022 or 2021, 2022, 5 years later, the same thing happened, right? So the markets went up again. And in 2022, we saw government intervention come in with the interest rates, and now markets are back down 20%,
Mm.
right? So I think by 2027, 2020, if we're following this pattern in history,
Yeah.
I think the market's gonna probably explode again. Just my opinion again.
Yeah.
I think the market's gonna explode. We're gonna be like in a crazy frenzy again. Maybe we're not, but I'm just thinking of it from a historical perspective.
Right.
I think 2030, two things can happen. Either government intervention comes in again
Mm.
to curb the market,
Mm-hmm.
or they just let it go and things just kind of go, free fall, right?
Mm.
So, but I think 2030, if I'm a betting man, like I'm gonna say that probably 2030, the markets might be more on the downside or stable,
Right.
right? But
Mm.
again, I could be wrong, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't have a crystal
It's
ball.
it's it's a five, yeah, it's like a 5 to 7 year cycle, right? So that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But regardless of the fact that, like you mentioned, like you're looking into it from a long-term perspective, regardless of what happens in 2030, 2040, we know that in the long run, like even if 2030 comes around and the market is down, what the prices are now compared to what they're going to be in 2030, it's still going to be higher in 2030, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
So the best way to put it is that, and this is what one of my real estate coaches told me, was that the market fluctuates, the market goes up and down, but it goes upwards, right? So up and down, upwards,
Mm-hmm.
just like a chart, right? So that's what's going to
Right.
happen, where there's going to be fluctuation in between, but as the years go on, the market prices are probably going to be higher than what they were in the previous years.
Mm. Yeah. That's
Right. So I hope that makes sense,
yeah.
but
Yeah. No,
that's kind of
it definitely
the
does.
way I'm looking at things.
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely does.
Yeah,
I mean, there's cycles in every kind of industry. They say for stocks, they
right.
say every 10 years there's
Yeah,
usually a serious correction and things like that.
right.
So it's good to know the I guess the life cycle of for real estate. You never know how high
Yeah,
it's gonna be or
yeah,
how low it's gonna drop, but generally at
right,
least it's yeah, that's amazing to find out. And yeah, I think like going back to 2017, they also started around with those different rules. They also started increasing the interest rates, and from what I remember anyway,
right.
and then kind of like
Yeah,
the market started slowing down. So yeah, this
yeah,
interest rate stuff is pretty crazy. I know people their mortgages have gone up, at least what 1,200 to $1,500.
yeah,
And are you seeing?
yeah. Some even 2000. Yeah,
Oh wow. How does that
yeah,
how does that
yeah,
work generally? Like what determines how much it goes up? Is it like how high you started already, or like uh, any
yeah.
idea on that?
It's a number of factors. So the main thing is the mortgage product you're in, right?
Uh-huh.
So most people who are on variable mortgages that are adjustable rate mortgages, which means that as the rates fluctuate, your payments will fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that get impacted,
Mm.
right? So if let's say you had a 1.5% rate back in February of 2022 and you run a variable adjustable rate mortgage,
Yeah.
and the Bank of Canada increased its overnight lending rate by 4.5%, your interest rates jumped almost to like 5.5%,
Wow.
give or take around there.
Wow.
And so now, if you had a mortgage of let's say 500,000, I think you probably end up paying like about 12 to 1,500 bucks more than what you originally paid,
Mm.
right? And as if the rates come down, then your payments will come down as well.
Yeah.
So it depends on the mortgage product, but those are the people that have been affected the most.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah. It's I know people who have kind of gone out and started doing some high side hustles and had to even like switch jobs earlier
Yeah,
than they wanted to because they needed
right.
more cash flow. So it's a pretty interesting time.
Yeah.
Are you finding that generally people are able to manage the mortgage still even with these increased payments, or do you see that they're at the
Yeah,
brink or
yeah.
something?
So it's a good question, man. Like I don't, as funny as it is, like I don't see people on the brink right now. And maybe it's just my sample size of clients, but out of my entire database, like I did a call last month when the rates went up just to check into my clients. Most of them, although they were not happy with the rates going up,
Mm-hmm.
they told me that they would never lose their home. They'll do whatever they can, but they won't lose the home. So
Mm.
they'll make the payments.
Yeah.
They'll cut their vacations. They'll take their kids out of karate, you know,
Mm.
but they won't lose the home
Yeah.
unless they absolutely need to.
But don't take them out of
Now
ILAB
the
though.
problem is that ideal keep them in
Idea
ideal
lab,
lab kids,
idea
yes.
lab. That one, no.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
them in.
That's a shameless plug. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, sorry,
I
cut you
like
off.
that. No worries. Yeah. So, but yeah, like that's kind of what I'm seeing. Um, but I think what I'm worried about is okay, let's just say these rates don't come down for a year or two. Right? How long can
Hmm.
people actually sustain,
Right.
right? So that's going to be very telling. Like next year at this time, if the rates are the same as what they were, then what's the situation with people? I think at that point you might start to see some cracks.
Mm.
Maybe a few people start to sell their homes.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, we're saying like even if you sell your home, like what are you gonna do? You're gonna go rent a house for like $3,000, $4,000, which is also very expensive, right? So
Right.
people are like, what am I gonna do if I sell? Like I'm gonna end up renting. Yeah, I'll have this pile of cash, but like it's a tough situation, man. Like it's really
Mm.
tough. But I think the next 1 or 2 years are gonna be painful.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I think things will sort of mellow down and be a little bit better.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a kind of a good kind of leeway into a real estate, or sorry, the
Yeah,
rental market. What are you seeing there? Because like that's a good point, right? I mean, it seems like everybody's struggling. You would think, if the prices have come down a
yeah,
little bit, the demand has gone down, the buyers who have been on the sidelines, it might have been
right.
like they might be like rushing to get houses, but from a couple of friends that I've spoken to, it seems like because the mortgage payments are so much higher now, like they're kind of taking a back seat as well. So it's like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on those things?
The rental market has skyrocketed. Like ever since COVID came into play, I think what's happened is that, especially now when the rates went up, there was an influx of sellers who sold their home and they're like, we're not going to buy because we don't know where the market's going to go.
Mm,
And so now you had this like influx of people just coming into the market for the rental market. And historically, the GTA hasn't had a lot of supply for rentals, right?
mm,
And so now you're adding more people into the system and you have the same amount of homes. What's going to happen naturally is that rents will go up.
right.
So just to give you some perspective, I had a friend who we were renting his house, detached home, back in 2020 for I think 3,200,
Uh-huh.
and we rented it out last year again for like $4,400,
Wow.
right? That's a $1,200 increase in the span of 2 years, which is
Wow.
insane.
Yeah.
And I think although I think the rents have sort of flatlined a little bit now, but it's very expensive. Like a townhome in Richmond Hill is going to cost you about $3,400 a month
Mm,
plus utilities.
wow.
Whereas just a few years ago it was like $2,500 or $2,400.
Sorry, 20 townhome in Richmond Hill. What? Sorry, you said 4,000?
34,
34
34 to $3,500 a month.
3,500.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah.
and that
You
doesn't
know,
include utilities.
that's steep. No, it's utilities
Oh,
is
oh
separate.
my God.
So you're paying like almost 4 grand, right?
Yeah.
For
I mean,
for rent.
that's incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
that's like, they say the average last time I checked, the average household income in Canada was like 15,000. Let's say in Toronto, it's like 80,000 or 90,000. For
yeah,
a family. After taxes, you're getting what 60, 55,000. So you're
yeah,
looking at like 5,000 to $6,000. And if you're telling me 4,000 of that goes like $2,000,
yeah,
you gotta take care of your children, your car, your insurance, your
yeah,
food, and then what do
yeah.
you have left? Nothing. You're actually in minus.
Well,
It's tough.
you don't have much left.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I see like what I see happening right now, especially this year, is like people are spending so much on their household expenses
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have a lot of time to spend with their families.
Right.
They don't have time to go out on vacations. And sometimes what that does, it's overkill, right?
Mm-hmm.
It burns you out
Mm-hmm.
and it creates unhappiness and it creates different issues, social issues, aside from financial issues.
Yeah.
And you can see it. Like I feel it. Like when I'm outside, people aren't smiling as much as they used to, right? So I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just me, but like I
Yeah.
was I was at a Tim Hortons last night in the drive-through, and the guy understand like it's cold or whatever, but the guy was so upset,
Yeah.
and I just told him I was like, listen, I hope you have a good day, man.
Yeah.
And he cracked a smile.
Right.
And sometimes you just got to give somebody that words of encouragement. Who knows what they were going through at the
Exactly.
time, but I feel people are kind of on edge these days,
Yeah.
and it's not their fault. It's just the financial pressures, right?
Mm.
So I hope that when the Bank of Canada does decide to make their next move,
Yeah.
that they also consider these social impacts that
Hmm.
this is having on people, because you can't have a society run like this forever. It's not good for society as a whole
Yeah.
and for our future generation. But anyways, I'm digressing,
Yeah.
but
No, no, it's amazing.
that's my other
It's
concern.
good to have a broad perspective, right? Like,
Yeah,
we all want
yeah,
for the best for ourselves, our family, our community, our
right,
country at large, and when we see these
yeah,
things happening, it's not easy. I mean, like look at the food prices. I don't know if you've seen, but some things have
yeah,
tripled in price. Like I know they look at the average
mm,
and they say, I don't know if they say like 8% or something. Food prices have
yeah,
gone up or 10%. But like if you look at the individual items, a lot of them have kind of tripled in price. So that's like 300%.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's
yeah,
insane. Yeah.
like and
So let
it's
me ask you a question.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. Sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off.
yeah, go ahead.
Like, I did a video the other day, and I asked people. I said, would you rather pay $10 for a loaf of bread, or would you pay 1,500 bucks more for a mortgage? What would you choose?
$10 more for a loaf of bread or 1,500 for the mortgage?
Yeah, pick your poison.
You know what? I might go with the loaf of bread.
Really? Eh? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. That's a response that I got from most
Oh,
people.
really? Really? Why did they say that?
Yeah, yeah.
What did they give a reason?
Because they said I can control the loaf of bread. I don't have to buy it. I can go. Oh, I can get away with it if I needed to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the mortgage payment, I can't. Like I have to pay it, or else I lose my house, right? So there's a variable factor in there.
Yeah, so
It was really
they're
interesting.
saying they would take oh, I think I misunderstood. So you're saying like would you rather have the increase in price of the loaf of bread?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Or would you rather pay,
well, it
pay your
depends. It
mortgage,
depends.
higher mortgage?
It depends. I think I understood that a little bit differently. I
Okay.
think I would pay the higher mortgage if I can
Oh, you
maintain the
would?
cash flow.
Okay.
If I can maintain the cash flow and
Got
have
it.
the affordability.
Got it. Got it.
Um, but
Yeah.
then like how much are you? It depends. Like this depends on so many things. Like my accountant brain is like
Yeah.
going crazy. It's like how long will the interest rates be up? Like
That's why. That's why I posed the question to you.
how much will I pay over time? And when you say
Yeah.
the loaf of bread, do you
Yeah.
mean like just a loaf of bread or like all the different food
Yeah.
items that are out there? Um, so
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
put it simply, this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Let's say we're talking about all the food items. I would rather have them stay the same price and pay a higher mortgage because the mortgage is
Yeah.
dependent on the interest rate and that can come down.
Right.
But I feel like the food prices when they go up, who's gonna like if the loaf of bread goes to $10, it's not coming back down to $4.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that always.
Yeah.
And it's
That's true. That's a
like
good
up
point.
to like 50 years old, like
Yeah.
till we die, it's always gonna be high
Yeah.
and it's only gonna go higher. And
Yeah.
the other interesting thing
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day is that, because there's a pretext of inflation, you never know how much
Mm,
the companies are inflating the numbers beyond inflation. And
right.
everybody will accept
Yeah.
it. It's like
That's true.
maybe
Yeah.
the cost increase for them is only 10%, but they can put it
Yeah.
up 50%
Yeah.
and say, you know what, it's inflation.
Yeah. I'd say it's
Yeah.
inflation. Yeah.
So
Exactly. We don't
you
know.
don't know. You'll never know.
That's so true.
You'll never know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think if I could afford it and if it's short term, I would go
Yeah.
for the higher
The higher
mortgage. Yeah.
mortgage. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm a
Yeah. That's the accounting perspective.
a
Yeah.
bit a bit different. It's a little bit different
Yeah.
than most
Yeah.
of you.
No, no, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the question, the reason why I posed that question to people was, sorry, I hope I'm not
No,
taking away from your
no, no,
topics,
no,
but like
no.
just
No,
wanted
this is
to
amazing.
have a conversation.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, so people were asking me like, okay, does interest rates actually help curb inflation? Because if you think about it, it's like, isn't it counterintuitive where like you're trying to reduce cost of inflation from one side, but in order to do that, you have to raise cost on the other side,
Mm,
right? So where's the balance, right? But
yeah.
what I tell people is that we won't know until 6 months or 12 months from now, because when interest rates go up, you don't feel the impact right away. It takes about 12 months for those interest rates to actually kick into households
Mm-hmm.
to actually start feeling the pinch,
Right.
right? Because now what's going to happen is that, let's just, the rates have gone up. They're not going to go up anymore, according to the Bank of Canada.
Yeah.
This year, people are going to start holding back and spending less. And that's what's going to impact inflation further.
Mm.
So, although I'm not saying that I agree with the Bank of Canada,
Yeah.
but I think that in many ways, the inflation rates had to go up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is going to impact inflation eventually.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way they did it was messed up, where they lied to everyone saying that they were not going to raise the rates until 2023,
Mm-hmm.
and they just did it in such a manner where, like, it shocked people,
Yeah.
right? And the execution part of it was not right,
Right.
is what I'm saying. But
Mm.
do rates actually impact inflation? I think in the long term they will, but it's how they did it was really messed up.
Yeah, yeah, it's I think it's almost like borderline unethical. I mean, it,
100%, bro.
like, actually,
You might have
actually,
crossed the line
actually,
in
it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
ethics.
think forget about borderline. It's crazy unethical.
Yeah,
It's like you're just throwing
exactly.
everyone under the bus.
Yeah,
Um, so
100%.
so yeah, I mean, okay. Yes, I mean, like we're kind of let's talk about I see a lot of your um, a lot of your posts. They're amazing, very knowledgeable, very educational, and it's really
Thanks.
helping me learn a lot more about the real estate market and even get exposure to different type of professionals that are included are in our community that you work with as well. So it's pretty cool. Like, can we talk a little bit about content creation
Yeah.
and that part that seems like you've been pretty consistent on that. So I'd love to hear some things about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Thanks again for the feedback. Like for me, I always wanted to put stuff out on social media, but I was always scared because, putting my face on camera, I was like, what if people don't like it? What if people don't appreciate
I
it?
really like your face
But
though.
I remember.
I'm sure everybody
Thanks.
loves your face, bro.
Oh man, all right, it's good. Encouraging words.
That part you don't have
I'm
to worry
blushing,
about.
bro. I'm
That part you don't
blushing.
have to worry about. Yeah.
I passed that test. But anyway, so I took a course actually on social media content, with a real estate broker. His name is Jas Takar, and they run a big program out in North York. And I took that program, and in that program, he mentioned one thing that really stuck with me. He was like, if you're afraid of getting on camera because of what people think about you, that's very arrogant and selfish, because nobody cares about you.
Yeah,
Nobody cares about
that's a
you.
good way of
And when
looking
he
at it.
said that,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm worried about how people will perceive me, but like people don't care.
Yeah.
Like people don't really, and if they don't like it, they don't like it. So what? Big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to appease everyone, but at the end of the day, you got to put out content. So
Hmm.
that's what I think about now. Literally, like when I'm making a video, I'm like, okay, no one really cares, but in my mind, like I'm like, okay, I hope someone does actually like it, or appreciates it.
Yeah.
And when they do, we have a conversation. So that's my mindset. I'm not scared from that sense
Hmm.
anymore. And right now, to be honest with you, like I actually enjoy making content. It's a lot of fun. I look forward to it
Yeah.
because I get to talk about topics that many people don't talk about. I get to interview people, right? And it's so much fun meeting and learning
Yeah.
people. And I've seen it make a difference in the business, which is the end goal.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, for me, I wanted to educate people and differentiate myself.
Hmm.
And whether the business comes or not, it's fine. I get so many feedback, comments from people that make me appreciate, what I'm doing, and they appreciate what I'm putting out. And so that's really helpful to know. But I really enjoyed doing the content. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, I've been
Yeah.
following you on different platforms for since the very beginning, and I've seen it
Yeah.
only get better, the quality, the presentation, the information. So really looking forward to listening to more of
Yeah.
that.
No, thanks,
Yeah,
man.
what
Thank
are the
you.
different
Yeah.
platforms you're on now, or what are the main ones?
So right now, mostly Instagram. That's my go-to.
Okay.
And then I just started TikTok, which I still don't understand fully, but
Not not do you,
trying to
yeah,
grasp TikTok.
I call it I call it in my mind. I haven't told anyone, but yeah, I call it the
Yeah.
flea market of social media. it just it
That's a
just
good one.
it just like
Yeah,
it's so
yeah,
chaotic, but it seems to work. I mean, in terms of,
yeah.
getting
Like,
the word out and whatever. Uh,
yeah, you definitely get some more weird comments on TikTok,
yeah.
and I don't know how to respond to them sometimes.
Yeah,
So I
sometimes you
just,
just have to leave
yeah,
it and
you deal with
never
it.
think about
But
it. Yeah. So
yeah, so
Instagram,
that's those are the two main things.
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok,
Okay.
and YouTube.
Right, right, right. You have the
Yeah,
podcast, like the longer
yeah,
form videos on YouTube.
correct.
Nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice. Okay. So yeah, so you can follow, basically the audience can follow you on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok.
yeah.
And I'm curious, do you use the same video that you create for Instagram? Like, do you share that? Like, do you create it for both platforms, or is like TikTok separate and then Instagram separate, and YouTube?
It's the same videos.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for you for Instagram and TikTok. It's the exact same
Mm-hmm.
videos. I just post them at different times.
Okay.
And then for YouTube, I do YouTube Shorts as well.
Right.
And YouTube, I do the long form, like you said, so the interviews,
Mm.
which you can't really put on Instagram or TikTok, but that's for my long form content, which actually I enjoy the most. That's the most that I enjoy.
The long
Yeah,
form.
because I get to talk
Yeah.
more. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Talk more, share more, get
yeah.
into deeper conversations.
Exactly,
So yeah, so
exactly.
for the
Yeah.
audience, check out the channel. I'll post a link, and it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you,
So
man. Yeah, it's been a
and then
pleasure
hopefully we can do it again sometime soon.
for sure, bro.
Uh,
Thank you so much for having me
yeah,
on.